My coworker filed an HR complaint claiming I sexually harassed her and made her feel unsafe at work. She provided detailed incidents with dates and times. Except she forgot our office installed new security cameras 3 months ago that recorded everything. Turns out she was trying to frame me to steal the promotion I was about to get. I'm still shaking as I write this. 24 hours ago, I thought my career was over and I was about to lose everything I'd worked for. Now I'm watching my coworker get escorted out of the building by security while my boss apologizes profusely. This is absolutely insane, and I need to tell someone what happened. I'm 32M and I work as a senior analyst at a mid-sized marketing firm. I've been with the company for 6 years and I'm good at what I do. Really good. I've brought in major clients and my campaigns consistently outperform everyone else's. About 3 months ago, my boss Richard pulled me aside and told me they were creating a new creative director position and that I was the top candidate. He said to keep it quiet because they hadn't made the official announcement yet, but I should expect the promotion by the end of the quarter. I was thrilled. This promotion meant a significant raise and finally getting the recognition I deserved. I told my girlfriend Emma and we celebrated that night. I didn't tell anyone at work though because Richard said to keep it under wraps. Around the same time the promotion conversation happened, the company installed a new security system. We'd had a break-in about 4 months prior where someone stole a bunch of laptops and equipment. The old security system was basically useless, so management decided to upgrade. They put cameras everywhere. The parking lot, the hallways, the break room, the conference rooms. Basically anywhere that wasn't a private office or bathroom got a camera. They sent out an email announcing the new system and reminding everyone that the footage was monitored and recorded. Most people barely paid attention. It was just one of those corporate emails you skim and delete. Now here's where my coworker comes in. Her name is Jessica and she's 29F. She started at the company about 2 years ago as a junior analyst. She's ambitious and talented, but she has this edge to her that always made me uncomfortable. She's the type who will smile to your face while stabbing you in the back. I've seen her throw other people under the bus to make herself look good. Jessica and I worked on different teams, so we didn't interact much. We'd chat occasionally in the break room or pass each other in the hallway. Normal coworker stuff. I never thought much about her one way or another. About a month after Richard told me about the promotion, I noticed Jessica started going out of her way to talk to me. She'd show up at my desk with questions about projects. She'd sit next to me in meetings. She'd linger in the break room when I was getting coffee. At first I thought she was just being friendly. Maybe she wanted advice or mentorship since I'd been at the company longer. Then it got weird. She started making comments about my appearance. She'd say things like I looked really good in certain shirts or that I must work out. She'd touch my arm when she laughed at my jokes. She'd lean in close when we were looking at something on a computer screen. It felt inappropriate, but I wasn't sure how to address it without seeming like I was full of myself. I started avoiding her. I'd take the stairs instead of the elevator if I saw her waiting. I'd eat lunch at my desk instead of the break room. I kept our interactions brief and professional. I thought if I just gave her the cold shoulder she'd get the hint and back off. She did back off. She stopped coming by my desk and stopped trying to chat me up. I was relieved. I thought the problem had solved itself. Then 2 weeks ago I got called into HR. Our HR director is a woman named Patricia. She's been with the company for 15 years and she's tough but fair. When her assistant called and said Patricia needed to see me immediately, I figured it was about the promotion. Maybe they were ready to make it official. I walked into Patricia's office and immediately knew something was wrong. She had this serious expression and she wasn't alone. There was another HR rep there and someone from legal. They asked me to sit down. Patricia said they'd received a formal complaint about me. She said the complaint was serious and that they needed to investigate before making any decisions about my future with the company. I asked what the complaint was, and she said a female coworker had accused me of sexual harassment and creating a hostile work environment. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I asked who filed the complaint and Patricia said she couldn't disclose that yet. She said they needed to hear my side first. Then she started reading from a document. The complaint detailed multiple incidents over the past month. According to the document, I had made repeated unwanted advances toward this coworker. I had commented on her appearance inappropriately. I had touched her without consent. I had cornered her in empty conference rooms and made suggestive remarks. I had sent her inappropriate messages through the company chat system. I had created an environment where she felt unsafe and uncomfortable coming to work. Each incident had specific dates and times. September 15th in the break room at 2 p.m. September 22nd in conference room B at 4:30 p.m. October 3rd in the parking lot at 8:15 a.m. The level of detail was incredible, and I had no idea what she was talking about. None of these incidents happened. I told Patricia that whoever filed this complaint was lying. I said I'd never harassed anyone and that this was completely fabricated. Patricia said that's what she needed to investigate. She said I was being placed on immediate administrative leave pending the outcome. She said I needed to surrender my keycard and laptop and leave the building. She said someone from legal would be in touch. I was in complete shock. I kept asking who filed the complaint, and Patricia finally told me it was Jessica. I laughed because I thought it had to be a joke. Jessica, who I'd barely interacted with? Jessica, who, if anything, had been the one making me uncomfortable? I told Patricia about Jessica's behavior, how she'd been coming on to me and how I'd been avoiding her. Patricia wrote everything down, but I could tell she was skeptical. She said Jessica had provided very specific details and even had witnesses for some of the incidents. I went home that day feeling like my world was ending. I'd been at this company for 6 years. I'd built my reputation and my career there. And now I was being accused of something I absolutely did not do. Something that, if proven, could end my career permanently. Emma was furious. She knows I would never harass anyone. She said we needed to get a lawyer immediately. I spent that evening calling employment lawyers and explaining the situation. Most of them said cases like this are hard to defend because it becomes he said, she said. Without evidence, it's just my word against Jessica's. Couldn't sleep that night. I kept going over every interaction I'd had with Jessica, trying to understand what was happening. Why would she do this? What did she have to gain? Then it hit me. The promotion. I sat up in bed and it all clicked into place. Jessica must have found out about the promotion somehow. Maybe she overheard Richard talking about it, or maybe someone told her. She knew I was the top candidate. And if I was out of the picture, suddenly there would be an opening. I told Emma my theory and she said it made sense, but that proving it would be impossible. Jessica had filed an official complaint with specific incidents. Even if I could prove those specific incidents didn't happen the way she said, HR might still decide I was a liability. The next few days were torture. I wasn't allowed to contact anyone at work. I wasn't allowed on the premises. I just sat at home spiraling and checking my email constantly for updates. My lawyer said to prepare for the worst. He said even in cases where the accusations are proven false, the accused person often still loses their job because companies don't want the liability. On the 4th day, I got a call from Richard. He said he wasn't supposed to be contacting me, but he wanted me to know he didn't believe Jessica's accusations. He said he'd worked with me for 6 years and this didn't match my character at all. He said he was pushing back against HR's investigation and demanding they look at all the evidence before making any decisions. I asked Richard what evidence there could be. It was just Jessica's word against mine. Richard got quiet and then said something that changed everything. He said to remember the new camera system. I hadn't even thought about the cameras. I'd been so focused on the accusations that I forgot we now had cameras covering almost the entire office. If Jessica's incidents were fabricated, the cameras would prove it. I immediately called Patricia and asked if they'd reviewed the security footage. She said they were in the process of doing that now. She said she'd call me when they had more information. That was 2 days ago. Yesterday morning, I got a call from Patricia asking me to come into the office immediately. She said to come to the executive conference room and that several people needed to speak with me. I drove to the office with my stomach in knots. I had no idea if this was good news or bad news. Emma wanted to come with me, but I told her to stay home. I didn't want her to see me get fired. When I walked into the conference room, there were 6 people waiting. Patricia from HR. Richard, my boss. The CEO, Michael. The legal counsel. The head of security. And someone I didn't recognize who turned out to be from an outside investigation firm. Michael asked me to sit down. He said they'd spent the past 2 days reviewing every second of security footage from the time periods Jessica mentioned in her complaint. He said what they found was very disturbing but not in the way they expected. Then they showed me the footage. The first clip was from September 15th at 2 p.m. in the break room. This was the incident where Jessica claimed I'd cornered her and made inappropriate comments about her body. The footage showed me entering the break room alone. I grabbed a coffee from the machine and stood there checking my phone while it brewed. Jessica entered about 30 seconds later. She looked directly at the camera and then positioned herself near me. She started talking to me and I responded politely while still looking at my phone. After about a minute, I took my coffee and left. Jessica remained in the break room. She stood there for a moment looking frustrated and then she also left. At no point did I corner her. At no point did I make any gestures or movements that could be construed as threatening. We barely even looked at each other. The second clip was from September 22nd at 4:30 p.m. in Conference Room B. Jessica claimed I'd followed her into the conference room and touched her inappropriately while making suggestive remarks. The footage showed Conference Room B was being used for a meeting with 8 people present the entire time. I was not in the room at all during the time Jessica specified. Jessica herself was in the room for about 10 minutes but left before the meeting ended. I was actually visible on the hallway camera during that exact time period, walking in the opposite direction carrying a stack of files. The third clip was from October 3rd at 8:15 a.m. in the parking lot. Jessica claimed I'd approached her car and made threatening comments about what would happen if she reported my behavior. The footage showed me arriving at the office at 7:50 a.m. and walking directly inside. Jessica arrived at 8:20 a.m. We were never in the parking lot at the same time. Michael paused the video and looked at me. He said they'd reviewed every single incident Jessica reported. Not one of them happened the way she described. In several cases, the incidents didn't happen at all. In other cases, Jessica had initiated contact with me, and I'd kept the interaction brief and professional. But then he said they found something else. Something Jessica hadn't reported. They showed me footage from October 8th. This was just 1 week before Jessica filed her complaint. The footage showed Jessica in the parking lot talking to someone on her phone. The security cameras don't record audio, but they have a clear view. Michael said they'd brought in a lip reader to analyze the footage. According to the lip reader, Jessica said things like, "He's avoiding me now," and "I have all the dates written down," and "Once HR investigates, they'll have to give the position to someone else," and "I've already talked to 2 people who will say they witnessed things." She was planning this. She was actively conspiring to frame me for harassment so she could get the promotion. Michael said they'd also pulled the office chat logs. Jessica had sent messages to 2 other coworkers telling them she needed them to back up her story. She told them what to say they witnessed. One of the coworkers had already given a statement to HR supporting Jessica's claims. The other one had been scheduled to give a statement this week. I sat there staring at the screen, not knowing what to say. This was so much worse than I'd imagined. Jessica hadn't just filed a false complaint. She'd orchestrated an entire conspiracy to destroy my career. Patricia spoke up and said she owed me an apology. She said HR had taken Jessica's complaint seriously because it appeared detailed and credible. She said they never suspected Jessica would fabricate everything. She said this was unprecedented in her 15 years with the company. Michael said that effective immediately, I was being reinstated with full back pay for the time I'd been on leave. He said the promotion to creative director was mine if I still wanted it. He said they were terminating Jessica's employment immediately and pursuing legal action against her for fraud and defamation. He said the 2 coworkers who agreed to provide false statements were also being terminated. He also said if I wanted to pursue a personal lawsuit against Jessica, the company would support that and provide all the evidence they'd gathered. I honestly didn't know how to respond. Part of me was relieved. Part of me was angry. Part of me was just exhausted. I asked if I could have a day to think about everything, and Michael said of course. Richard pulled me aside after the meeting. He apologized for not pushing back harder when Jessica first filed the complaint. He said he should have demanded they review the footage immediately. He said he felt terrible that I'd gone through days of hell thinking my career was over. I went home and told Emma everything. She cried and hugged me. She said she never doubted me, but she'd been terrified this would ruin my life. She said Jessica deserved everything coming to her. That afternoon I got a call from one of the coworkers who'd been fired for agreeing to provide a false statement. She was crying and apologizing. She said Jessica had convinced her that I actually had harassed her and that she was just helping a friend. She said when Jessica described the incidents they sounded real. She said she never imagined Jessica was making everything up. She begged me not to sue her and said she'd already lost her job and couldn't afford legal problems on top of that. I told her I'd think about it and hung up. I felt bad for her but also angry. She'd been willing to destroy my career based on nothing but Jessica's word. That's not something you do for a friend without being certain. Yesterday evening Emma and I went to dinner to celebrate. I should have felt happy but mostly I felt drained. The past week had been one of the worst of my life. Even knowing I was innocent and that the truth came out, it had still been traumatic. Today I went back to work. Michael had sent an email to the entire company explaining that there had been a personnel matter involving false accusations and that 3 employees were no longer with the company. He didn't name anyone specifically, but of course everyone knew. Word spreads fast in an office. People kept stopping by my desk to tell me they were glad I was back. Several coworkers said they never believed Jessica's accusations. Others admitted they'd been unsure what to think. A few people avoided eye contact with me completely. Richard called a team meeting and officially announced my promotion. Everyone clapped and congratulated me. It should have been a great moment, but it felt hollow after everything that happened. I spent most of the day catching up on work I'd missed. But I also spent time thinking about what Jessica had done and why. The more I think about it, the more disturbed I am. She was willing to destroy my life for a promotion. She was willing to accuse me of sexual harassment knowing how serious those accusations are. She was willing to weaponize the Me Too movement and trivialize real harassment claims just to get ahead. If those cameras hadn't been installed, I would have lost everything. My job, my reputation, my career. It would have followed me forever. And Jessica would have gotten exactly what she wanted. That's what really scares me. How close she came to succeeding. If the company hadn't upgraded their security system 3 months ago, there would have been no evidence. It would have been exactly what my lawyer predicted. He said, she said. And in the current climate, companies usually side with the accuser to avoid liability. I talked to my lawyer today about pursuing a civil case against Jessica. He said I have an excellent case for defamation and possibly intentional infliction of emotional distress. He said with the video evidence and the chat logs proving she planned this, we could easily win. He said I could sue for damages including emotional distress and damage to my professional reputation. But I'm not sure I want to. Part of me wants to make her pay for what she did. Part of me just wants to move on and forget this ever happened. Emma thinks I should sue. She says Jessica needs to face consequences and that if I don't pursue this, she might try something similar with someone else at another company. My parents are furious. My dad wanted to know Jessica's address so he could have a conversation with her. My mom keeps saying she can't believe someone would do something so evil. They both think I should sue and make sure Jessica never works in this industry again. Some of my friends think I should just let it go. They say I got my job back and my promotion, so why drag this out? They say a lawsuit would just keep me stuck in this negative situation instead of moving forward. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants justice. Part of me wants peace. I can't have both. The company is moving forward with their legal action regardless of what I decide. Jessica will face consequences from them. But that's corporate consequences. That's not the same as her having to answer to me personally. There's also this other element I keep thinking about. Jessica's false accusation could have made it harder for real harassment victims to be believed. That's what makes me angriest. She took something serious and weaponized it for personal gain. How many women have dealt with actual harassment only to be dismissed because people worry about false accusations? Jessica just made that problem worse. I've also been thinking about the coworker who agreed to lie for Jessica. She called again today and left a voicemail apologizing. She said Jessica had told her I'd been harassing her for months and making her scared to come to work. She said Jessica was convincing and that she thought she was helping a victim. I understand how it happened, but I'm still angry. This woman was prepared to go into an HR investigation and lie about things she never witnessed. She was prepared to corroborate a false story that could have destroyed my life. And her excuse is that Jessica was convincing? Emma says I need to make a decision soon about the lawsuit. She says the longer I wait, the harder it will be emotionally. She says either I commit to pursuing this or I commit to letting it go, but I can't stay in this limbo. She's right, but I genuinely don't know which choice is the right one. Do I sue Jessica and make sure she faces maximum consequences? Or do I accept that she lost her job and move on with my life? I asked Richard what he thought, and he said it's completely my decision, but that he understands the impulse for justice. He said what Jessica did was unconscionable and that she deserves to be held accountable. But he also said lawsuits are expensive and stressful, and that I need to consider whether it's worth the emotional toll. Patricia from HR told me off the record that she hopes I do sue. She said in her 15 years she's never seen anything like what Jessica did. She said false accusations make it harder for everyone and that Jessica should face serious consequences. The head of security gave me copies of all the footage. He said I should keep it somewhere safe in case I need it. He also said the company had been planning to upgrade their cameras anyway, but that this situation proved how valuable they are. He said he's recommending they install even more cameras in areas they don't currently cover. It's weird to think that if someone hadn't broken in and stolen those laptops 4 months ago, the cameras never would have been installed. That burglary inadvertently saved my career. If Jessica had tried this 3 months earlier, she might have succeeded. I've been reading about other false accusation cases online. There are men who lost everything despite being innocent. Jobs gone. Marriages destroyed. Reputations ruined. And in many cases, the person who made the false accusations faced little to no consequences. That's what's pushing me towards suing. The idea that Jessica could just move on to another job and potentially do this to someone else. The idea that she gets to face minimal consequences for trying to destroy someone's life. But then I think about the stress of a lawsuit, the depositions and court dates and lawyers, the constant reliving of this nightmare. The possibility that even if I win the judgment, I might never actually collect any money because Jessica probably doesn't have assets worth seizing. My lawyer says we could pursue punitive damages given how egregious Jessica's conduct was. He says a jury would likely award significant damages once they see the evidence of her planning and conspiracy. But he also says even a clear-cut case like this could take a year or more to resolve. A year or more of this hanging over my head. A year or more of being reminded of what almost happened. Is that worth it? Emma and I had a long conversation about it last night. She said ultimately it's my decision, but that she'll support whatever I choose. She said if I want to sue, she'll be there for every court date. If I want to move on, she'll help me do that. She just wants me to make a choice so I can start healing. I think she's right. I need to make a decision. I'm leaning towards suing. Not for the money, but for the principle. What Jessica did was wrong, and she should face consequences beyond just losing her job. She should have a judgment against her that follows her. She should have to explain to future employers why she was sued for defamation. But I'm scared too. Scared of the stress. Scared of having to relive this. Scared that pursuing justice might end up hurting me more than it hurts her. Reddit, what do you think? Should I sue Jessica for what she did? Should I pursue maximum consequences, or should I just accept that she lost her job and move on? Am I obligated to sue to prevent her from doing this to someone else? Or am I allowed to just want peace and closure? I know legally I have a strong case, but is having a strong case enough reason to put myself through a year of litigation? Is justice worth the cost? I need perspective from people who aren't emotionally invested in this. Tell me what you do in my situation. Tell me if I'm crazy for considering letting this go. Tell me if I'm morally obligated to pursue this. Because right now I'm lost. I got my job back. I got my promotion. I should feel vindicated. But instead I just feel exhausted and angry and confused about what to do next. Update. I've made my decision. After reading all your comments and talking with Emma and my lawyer, I'm moving forward with the lawsuit. The deciding factor was something one of you said about this not being about me anymore. It's about making sure Jessica can't do this to someone else. The next person might not have cameras to prove their innocence. My lawyer is filing the paperwork this week. We're suing for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conspiracy. We're asking for compensatory and punitive damages. Several of you asked what happened to the other coworker who was going to lie for Jessica. She was fired but hasn't reached out to me. I don't plan to sue her. She was stupid, but Jessica was the mastermind. The company's legal action against Jessica is moving forward too. They're pursuing fraud charges and trying to recover the costs of the investigation. Apparently, they spent over $20,000 on the outside investigation firm and legal consults. I'm also working with a therapist now. A few of you mentioned PTSD, and I think you might be right. I'm having trouble sleeping, and I keep replaying those days when I thought my career was over. The therapist says that's normal after a traumatic event. Richard officially gave me the creative director position with a significant raise. My first day in the new role is next week. Bittersweet timing, but I'm trying to focus on the positive. To everyone who shared their own false accusation stories, I'm so sorry you went through that. This experience has completely changed how I view these situations. I still absolutely believe we need to take harassment claims seriously. But we also need to verify before we destroy someone's life. And to those asking if I'm worried about being seen as anti-victim, honestly, yes. That's part of what made this so hard. I don't want to be the guy who sued a woman over harassment allegations. But the evidence is so clear that I'm hoping people will understand this isn't about gender. It's about someone trying to weaponize a serious issue for personal gain. Jessica has apparently hired a lawyer. My lawyer says she's probably going to try to settle. He says once she realizes how much evidence we have, she'll want to avoid going to trial. We'll see. Thanks, Reddit, for helping me work through this. Sometimes you just need strangers on the internet to tell you you're not crazy. I'll update again once the lawsuit progresses. Final note. To the security tech who messaged me about camera systems, thank you. I never thought I'd be grateful for workplace surveillance, but here we are. Those cameras saved my life.